to the Impact Warrior Podcast. This podcast was created out of a vision to have like-minded entrepreneurs who have faced similar battles and understand how difficult entrepreneurship can be. We will feature guests who are here to share with you how rewarding the journey can be if you stay focused and disciplined to achieve the desires of your heart. Every business owner will face a certain level of difficulty at some point, regardless of the industry. And we are here to share with you the story of warriors who have knocked down massive walls to inspire you to keep fighting on this journey. Let's conquer the journey together. And here's your host, Casey Zeman.
What's up, everybody? How are you? Casey Zeman here. I am so excited about today's guest. Her name is Lindsey Shipley, and Lindsey is a registered nurse, a lactation consultant, and she's the founder of Lactation Link, and she's in her 6th year of business. And I've had the pleasure of working with Lindsey in her business, and I thought she would just be so perfect to bring on. She is just the epitome of what I consider an impact warrior. If you go to, at Lactation Link, you'll see so many amazing videos from her and her story. And she's a cancer survivor, a mother of 3, which I have 3 kids as well. So I'm like, we so jive with that and connect with that. And she is like the entrepreneur who's running her business, raising 3 kids, kicking cancer's ass. And I am just so pumped to talk to you. So thanks for coming on, Lindsey.
Thanks for having me, Casey. I'm excited to chat.
Yeah, I would love to dig in straight away and just talk about like how you started, like where all this came from. So you're a registered nurse, how did this all come? Because obviously you, as we mentioned before, you don't have a business degree. You went from nursing to maybe I'll create this program and product and go out and teach education through courses. So how did all that come about?
Sure. Really, this was born out of a need. You and your team might call it the reluctant hero,
Yes.
And really just stood at the bedsides of hundreds of deliveries as a young labor and delivery nurse, 22, no kids of my own. And living in the highest birth rate per capita, state, which is Utah. And so this was just like kind of here locally in the community, like having babies young is just like kind of the norm, and having lots, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of ingrained into the family culture as well. Oh, my mama had, lots of kids, so she's going to be able to help me, or my sister or whatnot.
Yeah.
But after standing at the bedside of so many deliveries and watching moms and parents struggle to know how to hold their baby, let alone to start that breastfeeding or that feeding journey, kind of caught me off guard. And after witnessing this time and time again, and seeing kind of fear in parents' eyes, or just kind of not quite knowing where to turn or where to start, I kind of took a step back and was like, wait a second, like, I think we're failing these parents. Like, there has to be something more, and kind of dug into the research side of it, having just graduated from a research-based university, and found that the #1 indicator of breastfeeding success was a prenatal breastfeeding class. And wow. So I never set out to, start a business called Lactation Link. I went to find a resource that I could give to the OBs and midwives that they could pass to their clients, because I thought, they've got to have peace, and they've got to have resources and tools before they even walk in these doors of the hospital, because it's so time sensitive. You're so depleted and exhausted after delivery. It's not a great time to learn a new skill, so we've got to have a foundation there. And when I went digging, everything I found was super outdated. The videos were from the 80s.
Wow.
And was not relevant to the modern parent,
Yeah.
And so I think that's when the seedlings started. And then I kind of went down this road to get this specialty credential. My husband thought I was crazy multiple times along this journey. I said, I'm going to get this credential, and it's going to cost, $1,000 to take the course. It's going to cost another $600 to sit for the exam. And he said, okay, so what kind of raise are you going to get at the hospital? And I said, I'm not going to get one, honey. And so I got that credential.
Was like, go ahead, do it.
Oh, he's been awesome. But I think, in the beginning, it was kind of like, what is she doing? Yeah. Okay, I'm just gonna hang on for the ride here.
Yep.
And that may have been the beginning of resiliency, because I had just had foot surgery. I had a 6-month-old, but the only training was in San Diego. So I took a flight. I took my baby with me for a week-long course, got that training done.
Your foot was hurt as well?
Yeah. At that time when I was getting that, coursework done. Anyway, so when I got that credential, I went to interview at the hospital for just kind of a position in the hospital as a lactation consultant. And I got the offer to take that job, but I took another step back and I said, that's not quite what I want to do. I want to be able to impact families in a greater way, give them this foundation beforehand. And then if they need support afterwards, then we're supporting, but then we're going back to kind of this library of information and these experts that can, so that's really was the beginning. And then I had a recurrence of cancer, right? Maybe, 2 or 3 months after I started Lactation Link. I had a recurrence of cancer. And so I actually had to go into chemotherapy and things like that. And I remember sitting in that chemo chair and I had a book on my lap that said how to be a private practice lactation consultant. And the first page, Casey, of that said, if you want to make money, stop. Like, don't do this career, because it really is a service-based person that goes into doing this, that cares so much about families and serving. Yeah. But that didn't deter me. I guess I knew, like, yes, it's wonderful to have, give service, but it has to be sustainable for the individual as well. Right. So that's another, I guess, red flag of my craziness or my resiliency to kind of push back against like what people tell you can be done.
Yes.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead. Well,
I'll stop you there, but
sure.
That you're already starting to I'm seeing sort of the onion is peeled away, and I'm learning about the layers of like that resiliency, as you said, as that curiosity of like, or that maybe that, I think of like the warrior that we like to highlight as people that are slight rebels. If someone says I can't do something, that's just going to push me a little farther to prove them otherwise, and maybe that's where you're like, this is such a blanket statement that you're not going to make money. It's like, I need to, let me prove to you that that's wrong. Let me find my own narrative. Let me find my own story arc on that. So keep going. This is awesome.
Kind of like, well, just because it hasn't been done doesn't mean we can't retool and get creative and come at it from a different perspective.
Exactly.
That's going to both serve families and create an amazing solution, but also make it sustainable for a professional to get paid for that. And so that kind of reminds me of the story of like my first class, my first paid class. I think I started the business like December 28th, and I had put my first class for January 15th. And my husband's like, okay, well, how are you going to get people there? And it was just in my living room. We started really, humble and small, which I think is also a key to anybody who's listening that's thinking about starting a business. You don't have to rent a space. You don't have to pay full-time employees right away. Like, there's so much that can be done in a scrappy way to test your concept, and then to build from there and put a little bit more money in and a little bit more in. You don't have to like go into debt out of the gate. So he said, how are you going to get people there? And I looked at him and I said, well, if I have to stand outside Babies R Us and hand out flyers to pregnant people, I will get 10 people there,
Yeah.
It's one of the things my husband says. He says, I love this about you, but it's also a curse for me at times that you're so stubborn about things, and like you see something and you go for it.
Yes.
And so it can be really fantastic, but it can also be hard in some regards. And so I got 10 people to that first class. We charged $35, and it was like a little PayPal thing. It was just texting or, Facebook message on my personal page. And maybe one of them was my cousin and one of them was my best friend, but we got 10 people there. And so that was like the really humble beginnings. And then I started an Instagram page, and it was way less beautiful and way less, thought through than it is now. But I think people saw the passion, and they saw just the love to teach, and help in a new way. And we started getting people all over the world that were chiming in on social media. And someone said, hey, I'd love to do your class, but I don't live local to you. So we started doing Google Hangout classes that were maximized at 15 people. That was the cap.
I remember, yes.
Yeah. So I did that for about, 6 to 8 months. And I consider that like my market research phase, because I had a curriculum, but I was adding, okay, can someone send me a picture, or have I met with somebody that I can get a picture to show this? And I was also noticing the same questions that were coming up that weren't already built into my curriculum. And so that, I think, is what led to the online courses, was partly because of the lifestyle piece. Sometimes I would hold classes that I could do it, but somebody in Poland couldn't come, that emailed us and said, we want to do it. Also, I had to kick my family out of the house for 2 hours. And I think my babies were like 3 and 2 at the time.
Oh man.
So that was
impossible.
yeah. And we were doing them weekly. And so that was really, really hard. And so I think that's where the idea came from, to do an online course that could be on demand and available to families everywhere.
That's incredible. How long did it take for you to put the online course together?
Yeah. This is going to also go back to the whole, don't wait till it's perfect. I had my slides. And I hired somebody to come and record, because I didn't really know anything about tech. Like, I didn't even know how to do a conversation like this yet. So I hired somebody to come and just record me as I was teaching, almost podcast style, as slides were rolling. So they recorded that, and I put some still pictures in. I think I had 3 videos in that first original set of the online courses.
Right.
And I gave myself a deadline. I think I put it together in a month. And I was like at the library doing it like away, because I didn't have like a shared space or anything at that point. And then we launched it, and I started on Gumroad. I don't know if you're familiar with that. It's not really a video or a course platform. It's more of a PDF, where you house PDFs and purchase them, but it was the cheapest. And it was what we could afford. And that first 2 weeks, we made like $3,000 off those like on-demand courses. And like, I thought I was like, oh my gosh, that is so amazing. Yeah.
That's so incredible. And I love that you just did it, no matter, what the sort of like how extensive your knowledge was about how to use the technology, or where you could do it. A lot of times what stops us is, well, I don't have the space for doing this, or I don't have the right skill set for being able to record. I mean, there's so many little things, and all these little things are little obstacles, because we run, and that you just, that the pain of them, you just overcame that. And unfortunately, what many of us do is we let those little things build up to a massive wall that we'll wait another day to break through. And so I think thus far, I love how your progression has shown that, all the little challenges did not stop you, didn't deter you. They may have slowed you down, and you had to think, how am I, what I gained from that is you put a deadline there. And even though you still had to learn how to do X, Y, and Z, you still made that deadline, right?
Yeah.
And by putting the deadline, then you're working odd hours and doing different things. And as a mother of three, especially little ones like that, holy moly, it just really goes to show like how when we really dig in, we can accomplish many different things under multiple levels of duress and stress and things like that.
No, I appreciate that for sure.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it's definitely not like, oh, I can never accomplish this. Just kind of like almost that beginning thing, like, oh, well, if you're going to be a lactation consultant, don't worry about ever making money. Just kind of taking that step back and going, how can we go around it? How can we go over it? How can we go under it? How can we find a secret trap door to make something happen? But then also being okay with, okay, this isn't my final version. But it's a version that's going to serve this percent of the population super well. Right. And then down the road, I can widen that net and do more.
What was that first? So you created the first course, you launched it out, you made 3,000. Obviously the business has grown substantially since then. And was that the $97 product? Because I know you had a $97 product, or was that a different pricing?
We had it priced differently at the very beginning. I think we did like a single, because we had 3 courses even at the beginning, and then we bundled them. So I think we did single courses at like $39, and then the bundle was $89 to try to just make it like no brainer to do the bundle. And even from the very beginning, 90% of our transactions were the bundle, have been the bundle.
Nice.
Yeah. And I think in the progression that, that whole first probably year and a half after we launched those, because I was stoked about the $3,000. I'm like, okay, this is what life is like now. Like I thought like, okay, that's just going to keep going at that pace. And I didn't understand the saturation like of your customers. I didn't understand the need for constant new lead generation. And so then when those like sales slowed down, I was kind of left scratching my head. And that whole first year and a half, we really had to rely on sales and coupon codes. I didn't even know what a webinar was at that point.
Right.
And then I kind of got to the point where I was like, gosh, I don't want to train my audience. I want Lindsey's discount. Yeah, I want Lindsey's product, but I know she's gonna launch a coupon code in the next, month or two. So I'm just gonna wait. So I started to notice, okay, that's a problem. And the other thing I would say is, I went places and I did things. So like I went down to like the ABC Kids show, which is where they showcase like all the new baby products every year. Right. I'd go to lactation consultant conventions. I don't think you need to like run yourself ragged doing that. But the reason why I mention that is you can't be afraid to reach out to people, email them, even if it's a cold email, or jump into something if you have a good feeling about a networking opportunity. There's probably so many people who just haven't answered my emails or say no, but out of all those, there's been a percentage that have said yes, or, whatnot. And it's brought tremendous rewards and up levels in my business. Yeah. So going down to that ABC show, I ran into a group that invited me to come to dinner with them. They were doing like little baby bassinets. Yeah. And they had a marketing girl on their team. And I sat right next to her at dinner, just randomly. And she started asking me what she did. What I did. And I told her I had online courses. And she said, well, do you have any sales funnels? And I said, what's a sales funnel? Like dead serious. And she started talking to me about, hey, you could create kind of this free email course, and then we could put like timers in it, and then people would have more urgency and scarcity and like all these new concepts. Yeah. So when I got back home, I hired her to put together my very first sales funnel, which was that free email course. And that was great. That was awesome. That started to give us a little bit more regular revenue coming in. And that was kind of like that first step. And so maybe 3-6 months go by, I was approached by a hospital to create a program for them. So I kind of shifted my focus, And I got really into that project, and it kind of got my eyes away from revenue and numbers, which is never a good thing when you're a business owner. So during that time, this same marketing girl reached out to me and said, "You've got to try a webinar." And I kind of put her off, and I was like, no, I'm too busy right now. I'm focusing on this hospital project, like kind of go away. But to her credit, like she was pretty persistent. Maybe she was trained by you back in the day, Casey. I don't know.
I hope so.
Yeah, it must have been. And
I'll have to get her name at some point.
Exactly. And she came back to me and she said, "No, you really need to do this webinar." And so I basically said, okay, well, if I can pay you to set up, do everything, to set up even the slides, and I'm just going to show up and teach for an hour, great, I'll do it. Yeah. She was actually great because she dove into my website. She did all the copy, and I showed up and I did the webinar, and I made $5,000 on that first webinar I did. So you had my attention then after that, about webinars. Yeah. So that was another kind of little turning point of learning. Yeah, for sure.
What happened with the hospital thing though? What?
Yeah. So
continue on, or
I don't regret going down that path, but there, we went about a year and a half. That's actually what pushed me to create better content. Now our content is so much more amazing than, those early podcast style slides, was because of this opportunity to potentially be in the hospital. So that's what was taking up a lot of my time. We got so much B-roll footage from probably 50 different models, all different sizes, shapes, colors of women, which we thought was so important. And it was costly. It cost quite a bit of money to do that, because I brought in a videographer. I had other experts weighing in on the script and the writing. But that ended up not being able to move forward just because of so much red tape in the hospital, And so I could have at that point gone, hey, I can go get an investment and bring a huge sales team in and just more manpower to do that. But personally, I wasn't in a place to take on that type of responsibility. And so I had to, even though it was hard, because I would have loved that, I kind of had to close that off a little bit and really focus on the consumer side to keep the doors open for the business, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And so then, did you get to keep the content that you had started to create?
Well, I paid for it. Yeah. So it was my content. Another thing where I came to my husband and said, okay, I've got X amount, which was, multiple tens of thousands to create this content. And he said, "You crazy, that's not going to work." And I once again, I backed it. And I remember sitting on the couch with my babies and kind of just, when you're in that deep train of thought of how am I going to, I haven't let go of this idea, but I don't have a solution yet.
Right.
And I created the biggest sale we had ever had with the most bonuses, and partnered with physical product companies to come up with that money off of that one sale so that I could pay for the new content.
And you did.
I did.
That's amazing.
I did. Yeah.
Well, so the webinar worked.
Yeah.
Once you did the webinar, what happened after that? How many times did you run it? Did you do more? Like, what was the situation?
Oh yeah, I quickly ran to do more, because I loved that reward there of being able to reach so many people and give them an amazing resource, but also make it sustainable for me, right? And so I ran more webinars, and I think we ran another one and we did like 3,000, and we ran another one and we did like 2,500. But once again, still not quite grasping the need for constant, fresh lead generation. I started to tap out my list because I was only going to my email customers and my social media. And so that, that whole process of going, okay, well, why isn't it working? Isn't it the content? Is it this? Is it that? And then finally realizing, oh, wait a second, we're going to the same people. Several of them have purchased. And I think the way we realized that is we were doing a live webinar, and so many people in the comments were saying, love the courses, have the bundle. And then people started saying, oh, I've got the bundle. What else can I buy? So that was kind of another turning point of realization, that, okay, well, we're going to the same people and they love us, but we're offering the same thing.
Yep. We need
And we don't really necessarily have fresh people in there. So I think, you know, since then, it's been a matter of trying to figure out new lead generation, how to maximize your warm traffic conversion and have that campaign going while also starting kind of a cold traffic campaign, and doing some of that through ads and learning, you know, starting to learn that whole, you know, game and whatnot as well. Yeah.
Well, and then, you know, you came in, into our program, and I'm not sure how you entered into it.
Well, let me tell.
Okay, because I wasn't sure if you were an EasyWebinar customer at the time or not.
Yeah. I think I was on another webinar platform, to be honest. But I don't know if you remember, Casey. I think I brought this up to you when I joined Tribe Minded, but you know, I found you on Periscope many years ago, you know, and
Periscope.
you know, Periscope. It's kind of dead, but it's still, you know.
Yeah. No, I loved it when I was doing it. That was a great way for me to like meet new people. That was great at the time.
And I think what I initially connected with was like, I think you went live almost every day, you know, on there, if you remember.
Absolutely. I was absolutely nuts on Periscope when I was doing it.
And I think I just loved that like commitment to doing it. And also like, no matter what the situation is, I think I remember sometimes your family would be in the background or you'd be in different locations. And I thought that was really cool, like just to be able to go for it. Not always having like a perfect plan or in the perfect setup.
You're saying I don't have the perfect setup today? Is that what you were saying? Still, by the way, everybody, still in my wife's childhood bedroom in the middle of nowhere in Iowa.
And so to kind of set up how I came into Tribe Minded was, I had a baby boy, December 2019, a miracle baby after having 3 bouts of cancer. But I had been 4.5 years disease free. You know, we just knew there was one more little soul for our family. He was born December 2019. I went in for a routine MRI checkup, which, you know, becomes kind of normal for you if you have a cancer history. So no symptoms, no problems. That was the day after Christmas. So 2 weeks after this little baby was born, expecting totally normal results like I had for the previous 4.5 years. And my original cancer had been in the lower part of my body and that was all fine, but they saw a tiny, tiny lesion in my brain. And so I had just, that was literally hell on earth, you know, to have that, you know, you're just caught completely off guard. You've got a brand new baby to care for. So going through that whole thing, I had already planned to take 3 months off for maternity leave, but now it was, you know, maternity leave plus, you know, trying to treat and recover from cancer. So to be honest, in the depths of that in January or February, I didn't know if I was going to be coming back to work at all. I had no idea what the future of Lactation Link would be. I had no capacity to think about that. I was literally trying to survive day to day. And we can't get into the specifics of just that whole cancer history. You guys can, you know, get that on another podcast I've done, but I was able to get treatment for it. I had quite a few side effects. I was in and out of the hospital the first part of 2020, you know, when everybody else was in quarantine and stuff like that. And then kind of one day in March, I worked for 20 minutes while my little guy was taking a nap and my older kids were, you know, at school. And I did that a couple times. And then the next week, maybe I worked for an hour a couple times. And it just was like, I never made a decision like, hey, I'm going back. It was just like, I started doing it and I had reward and I just kind of sunk back into it. And then of course, being the person I am, you know, I can't do anything halfway. And so I got really jazzed about scaling the courses and scaling the webinars and optimizing them. So I think I came back onto, the EasyWebinar website, and I saw that you were doing, weekly free seminars. I think you did that like almost every week last year. And I started jumping into those, and being the loudmouth I am, putting lots of comments, in the question box there.
It really just makes me want to actually start those back up. They were valuable for me.
Yeah.
On so many levels that I may start those back up, but I haven't done them in a while.
Yeah.
Pandemic sort of threw things off a little.
Yeah. So in your, soft sell style, I think in the comments, you said, "Oh my gosh, Lindsey, you might be a great fit to chat with, Tony on our team." And so I was able to jump into a discovery call with Tony. And, he could say that I wasn't an easy sell, because I had a few situations with consulting groups that hadn't turned out well. Yeah. So I was pretty like, hey, is this a good fit for me or not? And so I kept asking Tony, so why do you think I'm a good fit for Tribe Mind? Over and over again. And, jumped into it, and I really loved it. I loved that there was pre-recorded content that I could get into at any time. Mm-hmm. And then we had live Q&A sessions, and it was like, sometimes people are like, well, is this pre-recorded, or is it not, or is it live, or is it not? And there's some pre-recorded stuff, and I didn't care. I didn't care if it was pre-recorded, because it was so valuable. So it didn't matter to me, that some of that was pre-recorded and in the library, and it was actually better for me because I could do it on my time. But then I also loved having those live Q&A sessions. And I always utilized those, and would always text you guys beforehand and say, "Can I get in the hot seat today?" You're like, probably going, "Lindsey again? We'll see."
No, I mean, that's the thing is like, I love when people get into the hot seat. Like it's of massive value. Hold on, someone's coming in.
Oh, you're good.
I need a key.
Oh, for the car?
Van.
Oh, hold on.
You're good.
Something we'll be cutting out. Hold on, let me get the van key. Here we go. Thanks,
you.
Terry. Diana's mom.
Oh, you're good.
Yeah. That's funny.
We were just talking about hot seat stuff.
Yeah. So I always love it when people hop into the hot seat that are really like, they have questions. They have like, how do we get to this place? How do we, where should I, you had such valuable questions about, should I be pricing my products higher? How do I keep scalability? How do I keep consistency? How do I get my ads to perform better? I mean, you had such valuable questions that were also valuable for everyone else. So no, I loved getting you in the hot seat. And I know, I mean, from what Tony had told me, you had started at a certain income level at the start of it. I don't know. Can you remind me what that was and where you were at, and like where that evolved to and where you're at now, basically?
Yeah, for sure. I think we were more around 7 to 10K a month. And just really looking for more consistency and predictability, because it's hard to make plans, or it's hard to do things if like every month you're like, okay, what's coming? Right. And so that's really what I had talked with Tony and you about is, I really want to get to this higher level. I really want to be, eventually, at 50K plus per month.
Right.
And, through that time of working with Tribe Minded, I started to break that 15 and 20K barrier. And, then I had a month that was 28K, and I was so excited about that. And, that's kind of where we're at right now. We're kind of in that 25 to 30K per month realm. And, looking for ways to grow it beyond that, but we obviously definitely have demolished, where we were even a year ago, which is fantastic. And the other thing I've loved about working with you guys is you guys are super committed to the results, not just, the program is this long and after it, like, see you later. I've loved the ability to kind of get back in and obviously being respectful of your time and whatnot, hopefully, but, being able to ask little questions and then getting nuggets to go and work on, and implement. I've been really, really grateful for that part of it. And, just to be able to kind of consider you guys on my team and as mentors has been really fantastic for me.
I think that's really what it's about for us. It was about the results. We wanted to, when we spot someone with massive potential and curiosity and, someone who's like, I know this is a battle. I know that I have to be in battle with so many different things, and I'm ready for the battle. And being ready for the battle is simply just saying, okay, I'm here, I'm going to do this. You might not be in the best, you might not feel the best, you might not know all the things. It really is just, this is the epitome of why I consider you this kind of impact warrior, because you want to create more of a legacy in your life. Maybe you have good days. We all have moments of good, moments of bad, moments of ultimate low and life moments where you're battling cancer and you can't think of how am I going to grow this, and allowing yourself to go through those moments and allowing yourself to know that you can come back to that moment, right? And I love that you gave that to yourself. You said, I started focusing an hour a week, and then more, and it grew more and more and more from there, because you started to be able to open up space for it. And Tony and I could tell right away that you are just a naturally curious fighter, someone who wants to build a massive impact in the world, and you're doing it right now. And this is the journey, is the fun, it's the challenge and also the fun. And you're on this road. I'd love to talk about a couple things going on right now. You apparently have some opportunities that are pretty awesome, but at the same time, I totally get the hesitation about some of those opportunities. Sure. Because I've been in the same boat, basically. I know what they look like. And but it's just, when you get to a point where you're at in your business, you have more flexibility, you have more options. Would you like to share a couple of those?
Yeah. I think, couple things is that opportunities present themselves, and, we have to decide what's going to work best for us. And we also have to decide what we're going to put value on. And it's, is it money at that stage? Is it impact? Is it serving a group that is really going to be rewarding on your side as well? I think we have to decide that for ourselves. Tony's really good at that with me. He'll say, well, I know you're asking all these questions, but what do you want? Because it comes down to what is going to be, our legacy, what is going to be rewarding for us, as well as those that we're serving. So I think that's a, never finished question that we have to continue to evaluate as we go down this journey. But I think as you progress, there's always different paths. And yes, there's opportunities. Recently we've had opportunities of, okay, maybe we can have some really fantastic strategic partnerships of people who are in that same realm and things like that. Maybe we can consider rolling up or merging with other companies, and what kind of combined impact can you have? So I think those are amazing. Or, do I continue going it alone, and do I add, additional offerings, and do I build out my team more? And do I expand out of my niche now that we've created some brand awareness? Can we, go a little bit more horizontal than vertical? I actually love that we've had that focus in such a niche, because it's allowed us to easier recognition, rather than just saying, well, we're doing everything for motherhood. There's okay, how is that going to come up in a conversation of moms at the park, right? Because there's so many people trying to do everything. So I love that we focus there more vertically than trying to do everything at once. And I think that has probably been the secret to the success, in this specific niche. But yeah, it all comes back to what kind of impact do you have, what's going to work for your life at that time, and whatnot. So those are things I'm still learning and going through as we speak, for sure.
Yeah, like it's not easy. And I've been in situations where I've had the opportunity to merge with another company, and at the time, I had just come back from bringing my two sons home from Haiti, and I came off the rigorous, just the how draining it was, the process of bringing them home, the tirelessness of it, I guess. But it was just such a drain that I was considering merging with another company. That would mean more resources. That would mean more. I felt like, because I had so much more now that I was responsible for, I was like, am I good? Do I have enough of a foundation, a cushion, a net? And would this merger give me the net that I'm looking for? And at the time, I go back to the concept of legacy, and like, this is what I want to accomplish. But then you look at that, but then you also have to look at where you're at right now. And I will say this, that merger didn't go through. It just didn't happen. For whatever reason. There was some little things that happened that made it not happen. And once it didn't happen, and I realized that I needed to do this on my own again and consider and keep going, it gave me this energy of, I'm just gonna keep on doing what I'm doing and push forward more and grow more. And so the next year we grew by 50% because of some of the realization that the ownership lies back on me, and that I could still dig my heels in and get it done. But we have to weigh in those different times of when we are feeling like, what am I going to need right now? But I will say that when I think about the now, I think about what I'm feeling right now is temporary.
Yeah.
Right. If I'm feeling confused or feeling like I'm hitting a roadblock and I'm trying to actively fix it, it's a question. I'm just going to keep on trying to fix it, and until it eventually resolves itself. And so I think about the reward. I keep the baseline of the legacy thing as a way to be able to look at the now and realize the now is a temporal position compared to what the future is. But at the same time, both have to be acknowledged, and but that is the opportunity. That is the opportunity. This is a good problem to have. Having this problem of being offered something and being, and potentially taking a certain, pathway is not a bad thing. And there's no right or wrong answer here. That's the benefit. That's the beauty of it. Once you get to this point, it's just if I do this, that's fine. I live with the results of that, but I can still do X, Y, and Z. Right.
For sure.
And so
I think the more that you can persevere along your entrepreneurship journey, the more opportunities that are going to open up. I saw something like yesterday that said entrepreneurship is like the ultimate resilience Olympics, and I believe in that because I've only quit my business about 10 times, over the past 6 years, only to restart it an hour later. I'll have this just like low level conversation with my husband where I'm just like, oh, and then about an hour or two later, I'll start a sentence and I'll basically be presenting an idea or something, and he'll look over perplexed and say, oh, you're still doing it?
Yeah.
Kind of facetiously making fun of me. But I think that shows a couple things. That shows like, your resilience to continue to grow and to get to that, end result, whatever that's going to be. And also too, your passion. Because the other thing I'll say is that if you're not passionate about the subject, it's going to be so much easier to drop and never pick up again. There's a couple, things that have been presented that we partnered on or whatnot. And, if there's just not passion there, you're not going to come back to it. You're not going to have that creativity. You're not going to have that ability to, like I said earlier, go over, under, around, find the trap door. But if you're really passionate about the solution that you're headed towards, typically that resilience is going to come naturally.
And I think you're right. I think you have to ultimately have that. That has to be what fills your coffers when they're so bleakly drained by whatever life is throwing at you, right? And I do feel that like the more obstacles we knock down, the more we are so comfortable with knowing how that there's another obstacle. I mean, it really is about being comfortable with the uncomfortable and knowing that every day there's something uncomfortable that you're going to have to get through and go through. And it is that you're so I love that you quit almost 10 times. I totally have been there as well. It's the you ultimately you're a problem solver.